Good evening. My name is Vickie Slaughter. I'm from the Detroit Association of Black Storytellers. This evening, I just want to share with you a story on being aged or being seasoned and respect. I was at the grocery store not too long ago, and I heard a little boy yell at his grandfather and says, "Well, at least I'm not old." And the grandfather said, "Well, just keep living. Just keep living." And then my mother, she was still driving when she was 87. And what she would do is drive over to a friend's house near the bus stop. And then she'd take the crosstown Warren bus to her doctor's appointment. One day she got on the bus, and there was a boy and a girl on there that she was standing next to, and she was really having a hard time, keeping her balance, and she was holding on tight. And one girl said, "Aren't you going to give that old lady your seat?" So the boy says, "Well, why don't you give her yours?" And they discussed it back and forth for a little while, and they both decided that since they both had paid their bus fare, neither one was going to give her their seat. My mother was she was incensed. But it brings me to the story that I want to tell you. The story I want to tell you is an old Eskimo legend about two old women. My back hurts. Oh, not as bad as my knees. My knees really hurt. Well, my fingers hurt from all this sewing that we've been doing. Well, the other one said, "Well, my fingers hurt more than yours." And they kept on back and forth, back and forth. They didn't realize that they were being watched and listened to. The villagers listened to what they said about their ache and their pains and what they couldn't do, and they took it to heart. Well, the chief had also noticed it too. So the chief went to another part of the village and he called everyone over, but he did not tell the two old women to come to the meeting. They met and they decided that when they moved to the new campground, they would not take the two old women because they were a burden. Well, when it came time to leave, the villagers went to the homes of the campsite of the two old women, and they just picked through their things and they took what they want, their pots, their utensils, their clothing, their remembrances from their families. So there was nothing left. And the two old women, they knew what it meant. It meant that they were of no longer use and they would be left there to freeze, to starve, to die. And so when the villagers left, one of the women, she had a daughter and she had a grandson that was a teenager. And she says, "Please don't leave me. I love you. I need you. Please don't leave me." They left her anyway. The daughter lowered her head because she was ashamed, but she was afraid that she would be left too, there to starve, to freeze, and to die. Well, the teenage son, he felt guilty, so he took a piece of tan leather and a knife, and he put the knife in the leather, and he ran and he threw it to his grandmother, and it landed at her feet. Well, the other old lady, she knew that she did not have any family because she hadn't married, she hadn't had any children, and she enjoyed hunting and fishing with her father and her brothers. They had passed on, but their family did not want anything to do with her. So she said, I'll just lay out here on this ground and I'll die. I'll just starve and freeze to death. So that night there came a heavy snow. And when she woke up that morning, she was surprised that she was still alive. That she hadn't died and she hadn't frozen. And really she hadn't had time enough to starve to death. But in the meantime, the other old lady, she went and gathered wood and she started a fire. Because she had her flint, and that was the only thing that had been left that she had because it was on her belt. She made a fire, and during the night, she had cut some of that leather into thin rope. And she had built snares, and she went out that morning, and lo and behold, she found 3 rabbits in her snares. She came back and she skinned and she roasted those rabbits. And the other old lady, she said, and she realized that, oh, I'm hungry. And she got up and they ate and they talked and they remembered. And they said, remember when we were girls and we lived by the river? Let us go to the river. But they both doubt that they could walk that far. So the first day they got up and they could barely make it. One's back hurt. The other one's knees hurt. And they walked slowly. And they rested. But they were able to get food. The other woman remembered. She knew how to make a bow and arrow. She got a piece of wood and a piece of that tan leather, and she made a good strong bow and arrow, and she was able to catch bigger game. They walked and they ate and they got stronger and stronger, and they made it to that river. And at the river they found that they had plenty of fish, that they had plenty of small game. There were plenty of roots, and still there were vegetables that they could, wild vegetables that were still growing during the wintertime. They even found a cave, and all the extra that they had, they stored in that cave. And they knew to protect themselves, and what they did, they took and they swept the footprints away. Well, back in the villagers' camp, people had not fared as well as the 2 old women. They starved. They died from sicknesses because there was not as much food there. The chief said, we are being punished because of what we did to those 2 old women. And so what he did, he sent 3 young hunters out. He said, go see if you can find them and bring them back. So the young hunters, they went to where they had left the 2 old women, but they weren't there, and they couldn't find any bones or anything. And they came back, and they said, well, the women weren't there. But then one of the older hunters says, well, maybe they went to the river where we used to camp out during the winter. So the 3 young men and the old man, they went. And the 3 men got there, the young men got there first, but they couldn't find any trace. But the old man, he knew the signs, and he could smell their fire. So he went, he found the cave, and he went over, and they said, oh, please don't hurt us, don't harm us. And they said, no, we're here to apologize to you for leaving you like that, to starve, to freeze, to die. We did not do well. We lost many people because we did not have enough to eat. So they said, oh, we have plenty. Here, take some of this food and you take it back to the villagers. And they did. And once the villagers were revived, they came and they joined the old women at the river. Once they came and they joined them and they talked, the women realized that they were no longer a burden. The villagers realized that the women never were a burden, that they were taking advantage of what they knew. So now I ask you, do you leave your old folks out to die at the nursing home, to live by themselves? No, because we know that we must love and respect our elderly. Thank you. How many minutes was that?